This is the DGD podcast. Go Dogs.
Welcome to the DGD podcast, the Georgia Bulldogs podcast for dogs.
From the gun again on first down. Fires wide. Juan Daniels, touchdown, Georgia.
This is your favorite receiver, Juan Daniels, and you're listening to the DGD podcast with my man, Robert Reynolds. Go Dogs.
Welcome to this episode of the DGD podcast. As always, this is your host, Robert Reynolds. With me today, local high school defensive coordinator Brandon Anderson. He coaches at Dudley High School, 2016 4A, I think it is. No, not 4A. 2016 state champions, nonetheless. Brandon, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. How you doing?
Not bad, man. It's a good day. It's a nice day up here in Greensboro. Obviously, you're probably 10 minutes away right now, talking offline. But kind of some important things here. A lot of people in the Georgia fan base, might not know this, but you actually, put your hands on a couple of key pieces here for some Georgia folks. A couple names here that if you're not familiar with, you're about to be. Payton Page and Myles Murphy. And the Myles Murphy I'm referring to is the one at Chapel Hill, not Clemson. So obviously I know you said, like I said, 2016 state champions. Payton Page, if you're not familiar, if you're listening to this, watching this, Payton Page was a key piece, right, on a defensive line, and he's actually at Clemson right now. As a Georgia fan, you're probably if you're listening to this and Georgia fans, you probably understand the guys like Rasee, Myles Murphy, KJ Henry, but Payton's definitely a piece there, and we need to be, ready for him come September 4th. He's a really good player out of the Dudley High School system, and obviously Myles Murphy in Chapel Hill. You could look at Myles Murphy, playing a key piece this year as well. I know he had a good season last year, but when you look at it, North Carolina has the potential to possibly knock off North Carolina if they were to meet in the ACC championship. But without, obviously I can sit here and talk about it all day. Brandon, what was it like, to coach both of those guys? If I'm not mistaken, they were on the same team at one point.
Yes, there was. I mean, it was kind of with an advantage. You have two big guys like that as your defensive line. You try to separate them so people wouldn't run away from them so that they couldn't.
Yeah, I know. Well, Payton was probably 340 maybe at the time. I think Murphy was probably 300, and both guys were about 6'3", 6'4".
Yes.
That's a mountain of a D line right there. So obviously you want to talk a little bit about Payton. Consider I think he has more close proximity to what we're going to be experiencing here. Obviously, I know you're high school, but I know you probably follow the college game here. September 4th in Charlotte's going to be a huge game. You'll probably be rooting for Payton as well. I mean, I am, even though I'm a Georgia fan myself. But, what did you see, that stood out about Payton the most?
He got a good work ethic. This is size alone. As a freshman, when he first came in, I looked at the boy, young man. I said, "My goodness." I told him when he came in, I said, if you stick with the program, believe in what we teach you, get stronger, learn, you're going to be a Division I player. And that's what happened. He got humongous hands. And it makes bad. He's 340, but he's not fat 340. No, some people are 340 and fat and sloppy. He's none of that.
Looking at Payton, though, I was watching a little bit of his tape there. On 24/7, he played. I know we talked about this offline as well, but in your defensive scheme, he played a mix between a 3-tech and your true nose. Obviously, depending on the team and whatnot. I see him kind of with his size and stature. I could see him, at Clemson. Obviously, not really doing enough research here to know this. I can see him at the defensive tackle spot or that shade in Clemson. But enough about the actual X's and O's for now. What was it like? Obviously for me, I'm curious to see what it's like from a high school coach's standpoint, with an elite talent like Payton or Myles Murphy. What was that process like for you, dealing with the kind of level of attention that Payton got? in the during his high school process.
And you try to keep them, stay to the ground, especially when I have Payton and Myles. They have all kind of colleges hitting from all different directions, and I used to try to just keep them like humble. Like you haven't done nothing yet. I just remember you go on that college level, everybody's gonna be on the same level. Make sure they still work hard, work ethics very hard, and just maintaining the what we teaching them. Don't get the big headed and everything. I think we did pretty good with that, with Peyton and Myles and everything, and just make sure they stay hungry.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest things right there. Is like I feel like at times you can see kids kind of let their ego get away from them, and that really makes an impact on their work ethic there, and really the work ethic, in my opinion, I'm gonna have to assume from a college coach's standpoint, one of the main things that they could look for outside of your talent is your work ethic. Especially looking at elite programs like Clemson and Georgia, the talent is never an issue. They're going to recruit at a high level. They want to get guys that fit their culture, and that means guys that have a relentless work ethic and other things like that. The X's and O's can be taught, but I feel like work ethic and things like that and the effort cannot be coached. I think that's got to be something that they want, and that's just self-driven there. So I think does that make sense? That's what I feel like a college coach will probably ask.
Right.
And honestly, I'm assuming here, this is a lot of assumption here, just from a fan standpoint. When college coaches come to Dudley, right, and they're talking about a specific player, I think probably a generic question, might be, what are they like? What is their work ethic like? But how important is their grades? I know grades is important, but what generally speaking here, what is more important? Do you hear a lot of their grade questions, or do you hear about football questions?
It's gonna be first gonna be grades because they're not gonna waste their time trying to recruit a kid if they're not getting their grades right. And I always try to tell kids when they first come to high school, do not mess up your freshman year, because if you do bad your freshman year, it is hard to get your GPA back up. It is very hard. So we had several times we had kids that didn't do good for their freshman year, didn't realize, okay, they get recruited, but now your junior and senior year, it's hard to get that GPA up back where it should be.
Yeah, and I know as a college graduate, I understand the importance there of that freshman year. Not saying nothing bad about it, but typically your freshman year, you're getting a little bit of the easier classes, so you have to stay on it from an academic standpoint. And if as a parent myself, I think it's important. Not football related right now, but I think it's important to stress the importance of an education. Whether they're getting recruited in football or whether they're not. Education, in my opinion, is more important than anything you can ask for. But when it comes to recruiting and things like that, guys, just understand that, these kids are exceptional athletes, athletically, athletic specimen, really to kind of feast your eyes on. Really, it's just a sight to behold. But, there's a lot more to it. There's a reason why it's a student athlete, not just an athlete. So, obviously this little portion right here, this kind of thing to me is always fun to talk about because, at the end of the day, they can't take your education away. They can, things can happen and you can lose your athletic gifts, but the mental and the education, that doesn't go away, and nothing can happen to take that away. So, thank you for bringing that up right there to me. That's something that I really enjoy hearing. But then, obviously with Peyton and Myles, right? Chapel Hill coming from Myles, Clemson. Just kind of give a brief rundown. What were some of the schools, that were, constantly at your door, trying to talk to you about, not just those two guys, but I know the program had a few other guys that were getting recruited, whether it be elite, like top level D1 or, whatnot. What are some schools that typically walk through Dudley's campus or walk onto Dudley's campus?
You had Tennessee, Georgia, Clemson, Tennessee, GT. I mean, Georgia, University of Georgia coach, he flew to the school and landed on the game field to see Peyton during the school day. We had I think every school on the East Coast came to the school. And so since I was a defensive line coach, they had my contact. So I got many phone calls. about the guy, um, about the grades, where you think they, which way they think they're gonna probably persuade them to go or whatever. And so it's probably every school on the East Coast came for them guys.
Oh, I figured so. Now, one of the things as a coach, I think you look at coaches, obviously you're a middleman between, the colleges and your players, and one of your responsibilities is to filter out the BS, to say the least. How often do you see, BS in air quotes there? How often do you see that and try to, and how is it difficult? Is it easy to tell a kid, look, that's a bunch of BS, or what was that like? And kind of get a little bit more detailed there, maybe.
With schools, I always try to tell the kids, you gotta research a school. If a school is recruiting you, you need to see how many people in that position still on the roster. You got to see how many is graduating. How many scholarships they have left. And if you're interested in a school, if I want to commit now, can I commit? Because it's different for somebody to give you an offer, but can you commit?
Yep. The difference between a committable offer gets a lot of kids if you're not careful. That's why I feel like it's important for a coach to tell them, hey, you can commit right now. This is what that means. You have to tell them the difference there.
So, a lot of schools keep kids stringing along. Like they offer them, but you can't commit right now because you're not their number one guy.
Oh, yeah.
So I always tell our kids now, if a school offer you, ask them. So if I want to commit today, can I commit? And they'll tell you if they have what you are on their list. And I always tell a kid, find a school that's for you, best fit you, not nobody else, because every college or every surround is not for you. So you need to choose what's best fit you.
I think that's important to know too. Looking at these schools, right? Like one of my issues here is this committable offer, or the offer stance, right? You look at school like Georgia alone had a couple hundred offers out. Obviously, there's really typically like maybe 25 on a normal year. All scholarships that can be actually committed. So one of my things is you look at Clemson, and this might be something that you've understood here. Clemson, they seem to kind of do it in a non-traditional way that I think is actually more beneficial. They don't throw out so many offers. You look at Georgia, like I said, a couple hundred, Tennessee over 400, if you know what I mean, and that causes that backlog of committable offers. And as a kid, it kind of, to me, it makes it difficult. I would think it would make it difficult for them to really go through the process and you have that, say for instance, you want to commit to Georgia, but they tell you can't, so, that kind of leads kids along, like you were mentioning, and it's aggravating a little bit, but it's kind of the nature of the beast. So, the thought you said about, talking to a kid saying that, hey, if I wanted to commit right now, can I? I think that, that shows a lot about the school, how they're recruiting them, because it shows their priority for that recruit.
Yes, it does. I just don't like to string kids along.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big deal, right? Recruiting, like high school recruits, it's really kind of like a once in a lifetime. But it used to be that saying, right? Now you can sit there, go to the transfer portal, and get recruited again. But nonetheless, you look at that's a big decision for a 15-year-old kid, 14 to 17, 18-year-old kid. That's a big deal in their life. They haven't had to make such a big decision in their life. So there's a lot of I'm sure there's a lot of questions, and priority are starting to get set there. Some kids some kids really look at education. Some kids look at, get me to the league. You know what I mean? But, I want to talk about the current state of Dudley, right? I know we talked about your defense. And I know one of the athletes here, Makai Wall, really took note on Twitter. I was seeing that he won state championships in track, right? Won a couple hurdles, state titles. How important from a coach's standpoint is a multi-sport athlete over specializing in just one sport?
We always tell our kids keep their options open. Don't just you're just playing another sport. Keep your options open because every so something may not fall through. I love kids. We try to get all the whole offensive line, defensive line to wrestle. First thing is gonna keep them in shape. Second is gonna keep them out of trouble. And third is gonna keep their grades up. You got contact with them during the whole school year.
Yeah. To that point, though, for me, I look at it this way. When I was in high school, I made the mistake of specializing. I thought that, I wanted to do football. I didn't really want to do anything else. But after, obviously in retrospect, where it's 100% in hindsight, looking at it right there was a lot of things that I could have done, whether it be track, right? There's a lot of things that, not only from a fitness standpoint or wrestling in a fitness standpoint, right? But you look at a lot of things that you can work on, right? If you played baseball, you get that hand-eye coordination, things like that. Track and field, you can work on strength and speed. So for me, I didn't look at that, and I regret it. So, if you have a child, from a parent standpoint, I think it does us well to let them know, hey, look, do what you want, but you don't have to specialize, right? Just because I think colleges do kind of take a look at that. I really do.
Oh yes, and they like for you to play numerous sports.
Mhm.
It show you how athletic the kid is.
Oh, absolutely. I know Makai. Well, he plays receiver and he plays, I think, DB. I believe, right?
Yes,
Yeah, I know
he's
he
a,
was.
he's a he's a he's a punt returning kickoff return on specialist.
Yeah, I've watched. The kid is fast, man. Looking at it, watching some 7-on-7. I know y'all have been going to some 7-on-7s recently. I actually got one tomorrow, which we'll bring about and let you talk about that in just a minute too. Watching some of that right there with, you kind of see the things, from his standpoint, why it's good to play both ways. Because from a receiving standpoint, you look at his ability to run routes, right, and basically create separation. But in my opinion, working one way helps you transition over to the other side because you kind of see you have those tendencies that so you can kind of better gauge what an opposing player is going to do. From a DB standpoint, if you kind of know these tricks and tips and whatnot, that helps you be a better defender, or being a defender helps you be a better receiver because how to do things that the opposing player might do for you. Is who is? Do you have any other kids that are two-way players?
No, we don't try to do a lot of two-way players. We do some, but not many. Really, honestly, I'm looking at it right now. I'm looking at our team. We have no more two-way players.
Okay, I know. I graduated from Trinity. Kind of a side story here. Right down the road in Trinity, obviously. And at one point, I think my junior year, this was 07, 08, we basically had to learn two ways just because we didn't have enough, like a ton of players. So everybody had an offensive position, everybody had a defensive position. And let's be honest, two-way players, they're meant, like, you can tell those guys are meant to do two-way because the amount of endurance it takes to play both ways and really not get a lot of breaks it's insane. So I mean, to me, it's good to have those, one or two, but obviously you don't want to sit there and have to push two-way all the way across the board.
Yes, you're right.
But no, if you want to, I know we had talked about this. I wanted to get there to it. I just couldn't make it. Tell people about this 7-on-7. I know from a local standpoint, it's going to have some local schools in here, a little bit outside the triad. Tell some people about that.
We usually do annually 707 tournament. We try to get all the top schools around North Carolina. We play pool play first, then we go to a tournament wise. One of our former players, he played for David Amps, played for the Redskins and Chiefs. He usually sponsored it, but he's not doing it. He haven't done it the past 2 years, so we kept it going. We got Mount Tabor, defending state champions, coming. Vance, now it's called J.C. Chambers, defending state champion. They coming too. It's gonna be us. Who else we got? Pinecrest. Went to the regional quarterfinals. We got Southwest Gifford, Southeast Gifford, Cummins, Smith. We got 16 teams coming. It is all about getting kids reps and getting better before the season starts. Because this probably going to be the last 7-on-7. Everybody probably going to have before the season starts.
Yeah, I was about to say with obviously in August should be the start of high school ball. 7-on-7s, man. When I did it, I loved it. Because not only do you sit there, you get live reps, but when you especially do it against other teams, it really, from a quarterback standpoint, it helps you read defenses. You get better. Like, people say every rep counts, and you, as much a coach speak as that is, you can't understate that. Like, you can't even overstate it enough. Like, every rep does matter. Whether it's a quarterback understanding what defenses, and reading defenses, running backs getting that timing down. Look, I did option. I hated option. That's obviously a timing thing, and really reading. Like I said, I hated it. Did I say that again? But no, obviously with the way, high school ball is, you're starting to see more, I'm assuming probably more pro style or spread offenses, I would think.
Just a lot of spread. Everybody spread. Everybody got an athletic quarterback and they spreading the ball, So you almost got to have a linebacker as a defensive end these days.
Yeah, and honestly, like you said, you do a 4-4 for the most part. And to me, that kind of is similar to Georgia's defense, right? Where you have four down linemen, but you have your outside linebackers, rushing the edge. Obviously, I'm not going to sit here and babble on about Georgia's defense. I could do it. I could do it all day. But obviously, you have defensive linemen, or not linemen, but linebackers. The outside, could transition into what Georgia fans understand as a star. So playing the 4-4, it's really a solid defense that you can kind of have the flexibility to maneuver around depending on what offense is being thrown your way.
Oh, yes. I mean, we can look at a 4-4 cover 3, and but it's not the ball. We can go to a cover 2 out of that.
Now, with for instance, like if you have you say you run a 4-4, and do you have to look at your personnel to determine what your base defense would be? Like my opinion, I think Georgia should be a true 3-4, but we do the 4-4. Looking at that right there, how much does personnel play into defense, or do you just consistently run 4-4 and just adapt with what you got?
No, we would change the defense up to personnel and the team we playing. We don't have enough linemen. Like 1 year we didn't have enough defensive linemen, athletic defensive linemen. So we went to a 3-5. And also we may change. We may run 3 different defense in 3 weeks. It depends who we playing. If we playing a smash mouth football, we'll stay in our 4-4. We playing somebody slinging that ball around, we'll go to a 3-5-3.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a multiple defense, really. I mean, your 4-4, like I said, it really allows for multiple defensive schemes. So, I mean, that's why I think the 4-4 is probably – I wouldn't be surprised to see that more commonly than anything in the traditional odd or even scheme,
Yes.
One of the things I know a lot of my audience is Georgia-based here. And Georgia, I can't – there's no denying that Georgia has a ton of talent and, one of the best per capita – actually probably the best per capita in regards to high school talent. But look, from my time in high school back in like the late 2000s, to now, I can't believe the transformation in the level of play in North Carolina. Looking at North Carolina, when I was in, you didn't really hear a lot of kids coming out too much, right? And if they did, it was on a different level. Now you're starting to see guys year in and year out and becoming more frequently, guys going to these top tier D1 schools. And really, it's a testament to the development and the coaching. So, if for people in Georgia, obviously a lot of that is what it is, right? It's hard to say that Georgia is not one of the best states, but North Carolina is a state on the rise in regards to high school talent. And look, and Dudley is going to be in this situation where they're going to be in contention for a state title. Obviously in Greensboro alone, you've got Grimsley and Travis Shaw. You've got Page, Ben L. Smith. There's so much talent around here, and it's I love being able to sit here and kind of be able to watch what's going on around me. Brent, for your season this year, if you had to choose one game, if I were to try to go to a game, what game would you suggest? The one game this year on your schedule?
Durham Hillside.
Durham Hillside. Now, I've heard of Hillside before. I haven't been able to keep up with them too much. That's a big deal. If I'm not mistaken, that's a big time school.
Yes. They almost like a similarity to us. They're going to be athletic, big linemen. So that's why we keep them on the schedule, because there's always a good test for us.
Interesting. Now, obviously, like I said, North Carolina is a state on the rise. Like I said, just yourself alone, 2016 state title, 2013 or 2014, I think it was, state title as well. And obviously, you look at the kids that you've got. You coached up Myles Murphy, you coached up Payton Page, kids like Mekhi Wall right now, going to make a name for themselves in the NCAA. Obviously, it's a good time to be watching and keeping up with high school ball. I can't wait for this season. Obviously on Fox News or WFMY, Friday Night Football, man, I can't wait to see the highlights and stuff like that. But hey, man, look, thanks for coming on. I can't wait to do this again. And look, I'm gonna try to get out to Dudley at some point soon. I got to.
Hey, come to you welcome anytime.
Hey, I'm gonna have to set something up. But, that is all we've got here. Before we go, Brandon, for anybody curious about Dudley football or Brandon himself, where can they find you? Where can they find anything about Dudley football?
You can go to Dudley football webpage, or you can come on Twitter, Coach Anderson, at Coach Anderson, or Dudley, at Dudley Panthers football. And I don't have a problem. You can give me a contact. We can talk football. We can talk anything you want to talk about. We're here to learn. I am here to let people know that, how we do things in Greensboro.
And obviously, to add to your point here, like I said, this guy is a really, really damn good defensive coordinator at a local school. One of my things, guys, like I said, this is a Georgia podcast, but I'm from North Carolina. I'm gonna use my platform to promote and really, talk up North Carolina football when I can. Look, Georgia's had success in the past. You look at Todd Gurley, you look at Jordan Davis, Zamir White as well. Look, Georgia has success here in North Carolina. And look, I'm just trying to bring you some names that maybe Georgia fans should keep an eye out for. But on that note, though, thanks for tuning in. Make sure you're on YouTube. Go subscribe on YouTube. You can find us wherever you listen to your podcast, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. But on that note, though, guys, I will catch y'all on the next episode, and go Dogs.
We good?